Are you about to betray Brexit?
No, we've been really clear from the get-go that this isn't about re-entry to the EU. It's not about going back to the old rules, the single market, the customs union, freedom of movement, etc. So we've been very clear about that. But within that, yes, we do want to reset. I want to make sure that we get a better deal for the British people, for your readers, so that they feel better off, they've got a better public services, and I think we can do that with a reset.
Keir Starmer has said he will respect the Brexit result and not seek to rejoin the European Union, EU. But as he pushes ahead with his plan to offer visas to young people in the UK and the EU to work, many are asking, is this the first step in a plot to bring Britain back into the Brussels orbit? Although he has denied any allegations of restoring freedom of movement, his actions suggest otherwise. When the people voted to leave the EU to take back control, what is Starmer doing now? Quietly opening the back door, gradually blurring the lines created by Brexit. This article will analyse in detail 3 aspects of Starmer's controversial visa plan. Is this a policy that is truly for the benefit of young people, or just a political ploy to return to the EU? Will people benefit or face serious consequences? And most importantly, is Starmer representing the voters or just a pawn of Brussels? Starmer insists that the visa scheme is a chance for young people and has nothing to do with restoring freedom of movement. But a closer look reveals a different picture. The scheme, which allows under 30s to work in the EU for 2 to 3 years, sounds harmless, even appealing. But experts warn that it is an open door for a quiet return to the policies that people rejected in the 2016 referendum. Once this door is opened, will it be easily closed? Will the government control the numbers moving around, or will it fall back into the uncontrolled immigration of the past? What makes the public suspicious is that Starmer's push for the scheme coincides with secret talks to reset the relationship with Brussels. While he denies any intention of returning to the single market, such soft diplomacy deals offer a shortcut to a closer relationship with the EU. If he respects Brexit, why is he trying to get closer to the EU? People don't vote for this kind of political trickery, one former Brexit voter said. Notably, even some Labour MPs have expressed scepticism, worried that Starmer is playing a double game, saying one thing and doing another.
But now we're in a situation, when we talk about immigration, where we've been completely inundated with people from all over the world for many years at this point, and it's fundamentally transformed the character of certain parts of this country. It has led to our economy slumping, public services are grinding to a halt, you can't get places in the NHS, parents can't find places for their children in schools, housing is getting more expensive, wages are decreasing, and so if we were in a more prosperous time, I'd actually support this this policy that Starmer's talking about. You know, I think there's a conversation to be had, but now is not that time.
I
Right?
always thought we slightly missed a trick, that if we were going to have a level of immigration of people coming here, then the best place for them to come from would be the EU.
Well, of course. I mean, it doesn't
that would make sense to me. Right now, we've got 10,000 different nationalities turning up with no real way of assessing any sort of social cohesion there, how long people are here for, what are their real reasons for coming. You know, a 20-year-old Frenchman or a German girl or Spaniard or somebody from Portugal, wherever. I can understand why they want to stick a backpack on, come to the UK, do you know what, I'm going to work in Costa and God knows where for a couple of years, see the place and then go back home. I can't claim any benefits. I can totally see.
But what is really worrying is the direct impact the visa scheme will have on British people. Starmer said it would grow the economy and create opportunities for young people. But what does that mean? Once the door is open to EU workers, will young Britons actually benefit? Or will they have to compete with a flood of cheap labour from the continent? Before Brexit, many sectors in the UK were flooded with migrant workers, pushing wages to unacceptably low levels. Will that scenario play out again? One Kent resident said, "We've seen it before. They say it's an opportunity, but in the end our kids have to make way for foreigners. It's the good for the economy excuse again, but no one thinks about ordinary people." Beyond jobs, the visa scheme could also lead to a wave of uncontrolled immigration, putting pressure on already strained public services after the pandemic. Hospitals are overcrowded, schools are short of space, housing is scarce. Is tens of thousands more immigration the answer? Meanwhile, the government has not provided a clear plan for how to control the number of visas being issued. This has led many to fear that we are opening up the country without brakes, returning the UK to the era that people once so vehemently opposed. Some analysts also warn of the security implications. As freedom of movement is restored in a new form, criminal background checks and immigration monitoring become more complex. With Europe facing increasing security threats, the UK's loosening of border controls is a self-inflicted wound. So why is Starmer pushing this policy? Is short-term political gain more important than the country's long-term safety? Digging deeper, one begins to wonder, who does Keir Starmer really serve? The British people or Brussels? In recent speeches, he has talked a lot about improving relations with Europe and being friends with the EU. But people didn't elect him to be friends with Brussels. They elected him to protect the national interest. When a leader begins to prioritise opaque international relations over listening to voters, it is a sign of a serious democratic breakdown. Another point worth noting is the blatant contradiction between Starmer's words and actions. Just a few months ago, he said he would not return Britain to the single market or restore free movement. Now he is talking about a Brexit reset, a term that sounds innocuous but carries the risk of blurring the lines created by Brexit. If the relationship is not about changing, why bother with a reset? Starmer is good at wordplay, quipped one political commentator. But people are not stupid. They look at actions, not rhetoric. There is no denying that behind all the rhetoric, Starmer is trying to curry favour with a younger generation of voters who are largely pro-EU. That is fine politically. But when he does it at the expense of the millions who voted for Brexit, it is treason. "We are not anti-youth," said a middle-aged voter in Manchester. "But I don't like our interests being undermined just so he can get more votes." So the ultimate question remains, is this visa scheme truly in the national interest, or is it just a prelude to a ploy to rejoin the EU? By all accounts, it is hard to believe that this is anything more than a show. When a leader says he respects Brexit, but then acts in a completely different way, people have every right to feel betrayed. What do you think? Is Starmer secretly sabotaging the result of the 2016 referendum? Should Britain move closer to the EU or stay on the independent path that its people have chosen? Don't let others decide your future. Comment, like, share this article, and make sure your voice is heard.